Hi everyone, welcome to the 15th edition of PD in Your Pocket. Tonight I'm going to be presenting environments in family daycare. So thank you for joining and let's get started. Okay, so first we're going to start with an acknowledgement of country. So I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the country that we meet upon today. I know we are on many different lands with many traditional owners, but New South Wales Family Daycare Association, myself, is presenting from Dharawal land. It's really important that we remember that the environments in which we conduct family daycare does happen on land that always was and always will be Aboriginal land. The very first footprints on this continent were those belonging to the First Nations peoples. Their sovereignty in this country has never been ceded. Aboriginal families have cared and educated for their children for thousands of years on the land we now care and educate for our children in family daycare. Okay, so we're going to start by asking, have many of you actually read the booklet that was sent out prior to this session on environments in family daycare? It looks something like this. So we sent you a link. If you didn't receive it, you can actually find the link on the screen that you're watching with this presentation. And if you are listening as a podcast, the link is www.nswfdc.org.au/PD in your pocket. I am aware that we have lots of people joining us from interstate, and so I would like to say welcome to everybody for joining us. But I do need to just remind everyone that the PD in Your Pocket is provided by New South Wales Family Daycare Association, and we just ensure that we say that everything that we present tonight is correct for educators in New South Wales. So you may need to just double check if you have any doubt about things that may be different within your own state. Please remember to check out our web address for the PD in Your Pocket that's on the screen, because all of the topics that we ran this year and some of them from last year will still remain online. There's also a Facebook page where you can discuss topics covered in the PD in Your Pocket as well. And hopefully you find them useful. Okay, so what did we learn from you? So you may remember that we asked some questions when you registered for this session. So this is what we actually learned from you. Okay, so 57% of us do it mostly before the session. So we would actually look at the booklet and take in what the content is going to be about. Then interestingly enough, 30% of us do it after the session and 13% don't read it at all. So just some interesting facts before we get started. All of the booklets from the past topics of the PD in Your Pocket can be found in the PD in Your Pocket website, and we think you will get a lot more out of these sessions if you make the time to read the booklet prior to the session. So hopefully this is a reminder for next time you join us. Okay, so now we asked how happy you were with the current environment, so your play space in your family daycare environment. So again, interestingly enough, 52% of you said that there were parts that you do love and there were parts that you don't love. And 47% of you were actually really happy with your environment and love it. And then thankfully, there was only 1% that said that they didn't really like it at all. So we're hopeful that tonight will actually give you a bit of an insight into how you can change your practice, or maybe it just confirms that you are happy with your current practice, and that's okay. Okay, then we asked, what is the most important thing to you about your family daycare environment? 55% of you actually commented on how functional it is for you. So that's actually a really good statistic. 33% of you said how it makes you feel, which is really important. And we will cover this a little bit later tonight in this session. And 12% of you actually rated it as how it looks to you and maybe to the families. Then we asked, how much time do you spend thinking about your environment? So a fair amount of you said, 54% said that you do spend a bit of time thinking about your environment. And that's really good. And I think the numbers of so many of you on here tonight indicate that. So thank you for joining. And 41% said that you do spend a lot of time thinking about it, which is great. And then 5%, not too much. So hopefully that 5% just means that you're really happy with the play space that you provide for the children every day. Okay, then we asked, do you have a specific room or part of the house that is only for family daycare? And this was really interesting because it tells us that 82% of you dedicate a specific space within your home, and only 18% also used it with the rest of your family. So I think it actually shows us that there's a little bit of a trend that educators are actually preferring to have a dedicated space and not have it spreading throughout the home. So very interesting, but hopefully when we unpack some of the slides tonight, you will actually see maybe some of the reasons for that. Okay, so let's have a look at what we're covering in tonight's session. Number one, why are our environments important? A very topical question, and hopefully we can answer that for you tonight. Number two, current thinking about environments. So we will definitely unpack what that looks like and how that feels for educators. Number three, what do our documents say? So we're going to just refer back to the learning frameworks, the regs, the National Quality Framework, and really try and link that together as to why it's so important that our environments are inviting for children every day. Number four, how can we refresh or rethink our environments? And hopefully that's why many of you are here, because you just would like that answered. Number five, I'm very excited to watch the interview with Lisa Bryant and the lovely Anthony Semann, and hopefully he will unpack that for us tonight and give us a bit of an insight into how we can answer the first few questions. And then we will stop for some question time, and hopefully we can get to all of your questions. So thank you. Why are our environments important? So this probably is the most important question. But for this topic, environments in family daycare, we want to define our environments as it refers to the location of the home that you are actually operating your service from. When we talk about environments, we're referring to all fixed structures that are inside your home. It also refers to furniture, furnishings, as well as equipment, materials, any resources that are provided by you inside your environment. And also it does refer to all indoor and outdoor spaces at your home that are used by children. So why are environments so important when we look at all of these factors? The reason for that is because they help us to teach children. This is the play space. This is the workbench, if you like, of where we actually conduct our most important role as a teacher and an educator with children. It also helps us keep children safe, which is ultimately the end goal. And also, are we where we care for and educate children? So I think you can see from these three questions, we're going to have to unpack a lot, but hopefully it will tie it all in together for you. The environment as the third teacher. So I'm just wondering, have many of you heard this phrase before? If you've read our booklet, you may have already read ahead and seen that this is in there, but the phrase actually comes from the early childhood teaching approach developed in the towns and villages around Reggio Emilia in Italy. This approach was developed by teacher Louis Malaguzzi and the parents of children after World War II. Malaguzzi believed that the physical environment was to be one of the most fundamental, important things to the early childhood program. He referred to this as the third teacher, alongside adults and other children. Children's engagement and interaction with their environment helps them to construct their own learning. So I think we can see from this phrase that I've just read out about Louis Malaguzzi that it's really important that we have the educators that care for the children, we've got the children themselves, and in third place, it actually becomes the third teacher. So it's really important that we focus on the environment because it's so crucial to the children's learning and development. Okay, so your environment should support children's health and safety. So many of you will see photos in here tonight, and we will unpack some of the aspects that actually raise questions about the health and safety of children. And ultimately, we just want to make sure that our environments are safe and secure for children to play in. It must be your first consideration. They should also reflect your philosophy. This statement is really, really important because the environment that you are in should definitely reflect your own personal philosophy, as well as the one that is part of your family daycare service philosophy. If you are big on children's learning abilities through play, your environments need to show this and reflect this. And if your philosophy is about sustainability, then you really shouldn't be having a whole lot of plastic in your service. So your philosophy underpins everything that you do. So it's really important for you to reflect on that. And then hopefully your environment will reflect your beliefs as well. They should encourage play, definitely. I can imagine some of you are saying, will we ever get to see some of these environments? And tonight I will be showing you and demonstrating some environments, some things about what to do, what not to do, how we could improve them. So hopefully these resonate with you. Our learning frameworks emphasize that children do learn through play, and that should be part of your philosophy. Your environment setup should allow children to mostly engage in self-directed, uninterrupted play. Okay, and most importantly, what you put in them controls what children learn. A very powerful statement, and I think one that hopefully resonates with many of you. But the contents of your environment will give children opportunities to learn. How can children learn about reflection if there are no mirrors, for example? How can they learn about their world if there is nowhere for them to practice dramatic play? How can they learn about their environment if they don't have any objects from the environment indoors or outdoors? How can they learn about things that are made and about measurement and weight if you don't have a construction area? So I think from this, you can actually see that how we set up the environments every day for the children to explore really changes the landscape of how children learn and develop. So, as an educator, you should demonstrate cultural diversity in your environments. So, I think we can suspect that most educators understand where this is coming from, and hopefully your philosophy and your policies and procedures within your family daycare service help guide this practice. But we also need to understand the importance of reflecting and exploring Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander culture in our everyday environments, and it should be embedded in everyday practice. Okay, so what do the learning environments and frameworks and regulations and national quality frameworks say? It's always good to go back to guide our documents to remember what we should be aiming for. And again, I always say refer back to your policies, your procedures as a service, and obviously, your coordination unit. Unpack this with the team. Now we're going to have a look at the early years learning framework. And this tells us that our environments that support learning are vibrant and flexible spaces that are responsive to the interests and abilities of each child. This statement is really important and really powerful, and hopefully one that resonates with you. If your space is boring and dull with not much, things there to invite you to come and play, then how can we expect children to learn to the best of their ability? So the early years learning framework tells us that they need to be welcoming spaces, and they should reflect and enrich the lives and identities of the children and the families participating in the setting, and be interest-based as well. So it's really important to actually stop and reflect on this statement and ask how much of this environment and space is reflective of the families that I have. Do you stop and ask your families, what do you think of this space? Do you survey them? Do you ask the children, what do you like? What don't you like about this space? What are you interested in and what are you least interested in? It's really important to stop and remember that. Okay, now we're going to have a look at quality area 3 of the National Quality Standards. And this quality area requires that our physical environments are to be safe and suitable and provide a rich and diverse range of experiences that promote children's learning and development. So again, another powerful statement in quality area 3. But what this refers to is it's telling us that the physical environment of our family daycare setting is important because we want inclusivity, and we want natural environments to be sort of the basis of what we do, indoors and outdoors. It's really important for children, and we need to make sure that we're resourced appropriately. So do we have enough equipment? Is the equipment suitable? Is it safe? Is it well maintained? Has it been around for a very long time and it's looking very tired and old? Is it keeping the children safe? And does it support each child's access to facilities and participation with activities and experiences? So essentially, Quality Area 3 is telling us that our environments need to be safe and to support the children's learning through play. So hopefully you can say yes to that. Okay, the regulations. So again, a very important reason as to why we need to make sure our environments are safe. But the most important parts of the law and regulations in regard to physical environments require your family daycare provider to ensure that your environments in your home are safe for children. Things like glass being treated, as we can see in this photo, with a safety film to protect us. They also require you to tell your family daycare service if you intend to renovate your home or make any changes, things like getting a pet, building a pool or a pond. Is that part of your policy for your service? Are you allowed to do this? It's really important that we remember that the play space is inside your home and it must be safe. So again, refer back to the policies and procedures, unpack this with your coordination unit and have discussions around that. Also, the other thing to keep our environment safe would be things like a home safety audit, however you call that within your service. That also ensures that we're doing checks and making sure that it's safe. Okay, so we're just going to have a look at some beautiful environments now. And if you're like me, I'm a visual learner and I love to see these spaces, in person. So we're not saying that the next two pics that we're showing are absolutely the most brilliant, but they both have some beautiful elements in them, and we really need to unpack this and have a look. So the first thing that sort of comes to mind is the soft lighting that we can see. We can see the windows are there. Hopefully they're definitely treated with the safety film so that they're safe, but you can see that there's a lot of natural light coming in. It looks beautiful, it's inviting. There's different areas for children to explore. There are areas for children and adults to sit. So if you're feeding a baby or something like that, the children can still freely explore, but you're amongst it at their level as well. There's lots of storage areas, natural light, no harsh colours, natural elements, and a little mirror for people to have a look at themselves. So you can see from this that everything is sort of floor level and not too bright and no plastic in sight. Okay, let's have a look at this one. So just unpacking some of the things that I can notice is I love the pictures of the children on the wall. There's mirrors. I love the use of cane storage baskets, and I love the way the carpet divides off one space, which is great. So you can explore on the floorboards, but you can actually have some quiet time over where the carpeted area is. I love the use of the low level mirror, and it's right next to the dress up, so the children can actually look at themselves once they've decided to get dressed up. Again, lots of calming colours. But I do need to point out as well that there is a light box on the floor, and you probably can see the cord that's been plugged in. You might need to have a look at some ways that you could actually eliminate that as being a safety concern. But again, refer back to talking to your coordination unit, referring to your policies and procedures, or coming up with other methods to secure the cord on the floor so nobody trips over. Thank you. Okay, so on our PD and our Pocket Facebook page, we made a call for all educators to send us pictures of their environments, which is fantastic because we want them to be relevant. We want them to be from you as educators and to show us what's working well for you in your environments. And many of you did. So thank you so much for everybody that did. We're just going to share a couple of these with you tonight. Unfortunately, we weren't able to show every photo. So if you sent yours in and it wasn't used, we do apologise for that. It's not that we didn't like them, but we just had so many that we needed to just select a few. So hopefully you find these useful, and we'll just make some comments as we go through. Okay, so the important question, how can you refresh or rethink your environment? Which is probably the reason why you're here tonight, is either to validate that your environment's working well for children, or you would like to get some other ideas. So some of you are probably thinking right now, okay, my environment's really good. I'm happy with how I've set it up. And some of you might be thinking it's really time to refresh and I really need to start again, but where do I get started? So let's have a look at how you can improve your environments if you want to. And it's always a good idea to refresh your environments after a little while because we can improve on what we have. So hopefully some of these photos and comments tonight, and once we hear from Anthony Semann, I'm sure you'll be inspired to refresh and rethink your environment. So let's start with this one. So I just want you to take just about 30 seconds to sit here and reflect on this environment and just think about how it makes you feel. What do you think a child would feel sitting in this space? How many things are out for the children to explore? Does it look busy? Does it look like it's been refreshed in a little while? What does it say about the learning that's going to occur here? So I'm just going to give you just a few moments just to reflect on this picture. Okay, so I think we can see that from this environment, it really does need a very good refresh. It has obviously grown over the years with more stuff coming in, and that's okay because we do like to keep adding to our resources. But I think we can establish that it definitely needs some more storage. And finally, we're left with a dark, cluttered, and not a very beautiful, inviting space. For me, I'm looking at this and asking, where is the element of children's voice and agency in here? It would be a lot better if there were shelves in there where children could actually go up and choose the activities that they'd like to explore. So hopefully we can show you examples of that in the coming slides. Okay, so I am happy to say that this is one of our educators' environments, and obviously this is the way that we would like to see environments set up. So we're going to have a look at how it's been labelled, and it actually says new setup, new vibes. And I think that is a really, really great way of looking at it, that when you set something up and it's new, it does give you a new vibe. It does give you a new feeling. So imagine, you know, children coming into this on a Monday morning going, wow, everything's been changed around. I want to explore. I want to see, you know, what I can touch, what I can feel, what I can, you know, explore with. So hopefully if it makes us feel this good, then it's going to do the same for children as well. Okay, so we're going to clear your spaces. It helps you to look at them with fresh eyes. So one of the things that you can do is clear out your space. Do this on a regular basis. You might even have a roster, or you might have something, you know, in a policy that actually says how often the space needs to be refreshed. But literally remove everything from a specific space, put it in the backyard, or move it to one side and look at it completely with new eyes. And then what do you see? Clearing a space completely, if we can, lets us see it with fresh eyes. And again, as I said at the beginning of the presentation, really invite the parents to give you feedback. Invite your own family to give you feedback. And most importantly, get the children to give you feedback. They can even help and assist. Ask them, okay, we've got these three you know, boxes of toys. Where can we put them? Where can we put the shelf? Have them involved and document that you are actually including their voice in your environment. Ask them to write a shopping list of some new toys or equipment that they would like if they're age appropriate and able to do that. Okay, so let's have a look at this. So this could be just a featureless part of the garden. It could just be the fence that's in the background, but instead the educator has actually decided to clear the space and decided it was a perfect space for a TP, and I would agree. As you can see, it's all low cost materials, but her garden now has a space where children can gather and sit. So it looks like it's inexpensive, but it looks like children want to come and explore. We can have a yarning circle there. We can unpack conversations with children. We could even, you know, eat morning tea under there. It just looks like a space that children want to explore. And that's what we're trying to create by looking at different environments. I love this one as well. Again, this space was cleared and it can definitely be reimagined. I love the way that the chalk paint on each log makes it look into an art space as well as a sitting space. So again, lots of conversations can take place around here. Ask the children, what sorts of toys or equipment can we add to this? Is this a space that's utilised on a regular basis? Could you do group time out there? Could you, have a yarning circle out there? There's many opportunities with a play space like this. Let's have a look at this one. So another space that's possibly become a little bit cluttered over time, and as you can see in the corner, there's many things displayed on the wall. So if this was cleared and the space was looked at again, how could it be reimagined? So my first suggestion would be to take out some of the clutter and maybe just have a minimal amount of toys, which you can add to with the children's input as well. But having a look in the corner where all of the things are displayed on the wall, is that something that could be put on a notice board, or could you streamline that? For me, having a look at the beautiful Aboriginal symbols that are up there means that children can't actually reach to touch them and explore with them, or even draw with them, or something like that. So really think about the space and get children to help you with that. Can they touch? Can they reach? Can they see things? Aim for beauty. Later on in this session, you will hear an interview with Anthony Semann, as I said before, and he says that children and educators deserve beauty in their spaces. Are your family daycare spaces beautiful? So I'm just going to give you just a few seconds just to reflect on that. If I was walking into your service, or somebody else was walking into your service for the first time, is it a thing of beauty? Does it evoke curiosity and wonder for children? Is it cluttered? They're just some of the reflective questions that can help you aim for the beauty. Now we're going to have a look at a beautiful outdoor space. And I do need to say that this is just one example, and not all of us can actually have such a large open space. But if you are fortunate enough to have this space, then definitely, you can do so many things with it. But just have a look at the amount of toys and equipment that are in there, the spaces that children can explore, the climbing, the exploration. It looks like there's a small bench there. You could sort of have like a bit of a yarning circle there as well. Really inviting and a very natural space. But again, these are just some examples. Or if you only had a fairly smaller space than that, you could actually create something like this, even in the smallest of courtyards. It's beautiful, it's calming, and it's natural. So things like repurposing old tires, they're fortunate that they've actually got some logs there, but many of us in our family daycare environments do have like a mud kitchen or something like that, that the children can actually explore and discover and create and cook and do all of those wonderful things in. And I love the way that they're actually using the repurposed tires for a pot. So you could put plants in there, herbs, anything like that. And again, children can be part of that as well. Now we're going to have a look at a sleeping space that's been provided. As we can see, beautiful clean bedding. There's some books there for children that if they didn't want to sleep, they could actually read a book, a comfy chair, bright bed linen. But what about something for the wall? Do you think it actually could be improved? And if so, just have a few moments to think about how you could actually improve this space. It is well lit and lots of natural light coming in. However, it's looking straight out into the bricks. So what things could we put on the windows? What soft furnishings could we use? Could we have things hanging on the roof so children can actually go off to dream time and, really have something nice to look at? Okay, then we're going to have a look at this beautiful outdoor space. And I'm sure many of you would agree, who wouldn't want to play in this outdoor space? The blue on there actually pops and it's really inviting up against the natural wood. And also look at the wooden elements made out of cheap things such as pallets. So again, doesn't have to be inexpensive, but just fantastic for children to explore. I love the use of real materials as well. So it looks like there's an old microwave there that, could be used in a kitchen space, and, dramatic play. There's like a little shop sort of set up there that children can actually use their imagination and explore freely. And this beautiful space. Who wouldn't want to sit out here and explore? So again, we just need to look at some of the safety elements. So again, refer back to your policies and procedures within your own service about swings, but I think used correctly and with a risk assessment, this space should be a beautiful space to explore in. So very open-ended, you could add so much to this. Again, invite the children to decide what they would like to bring outside, inside to outside, and you could really create a beautiful space here. Clear the clutter. So you'll hear this a few times tonight, but hopefully this is going to be the bane for most educators. But clearing out on a regular basis really is key to having a blank canvas ready for you to create these beautiful play spaces that we're talking about tonight. Okay, just take a few moments just to have a look at this space and let me sort of unpack this with you about how it makes me feel, and hopefully you feel the same. So looking at all of the things on the wall, yes, they're colourful, yes, they're bright and probably capture children's attention, but they're very high up, there's lots of them, and for me, it's just a little bit busy. So what you could actually do is minimize the amount that you actually have on the wall and have a think about how overwhelmed you feel. I actually don't know where to look with some of these pictures, but what I would do is just put a few photos. I would even have some photos of the children down lower. I like the fact that they do have an open-ended shelf, but we probably need to clear some of the space so that children can actually get in there and choose which equipment that they would like. But as you can appreciate, lots of colour, lots of plastic. Maybe you could go for some more natural looking woven baskets or, you know, things like that in a softer palette as well. Take a few moments and we're going to unpack how this environment makes us feel. So for me, this space just has way too much out. Most of the floor is covered with toys and equipment. There really isn't a whole lot of space that if a group of 4 toddlers would like to sit down and, you know, engage in play, there's really not a lot of space. So I think we can agree that less is more. I would actually focus too on the amount of coloured plastic things that are there and, you know, just the way that the cars, I think they are in the middle, are presented. Again, using soft baskets, you know, woven materials, lots of natural materials will actually soften the space. You could even put a lamp in there. And what I'm noticing as well is there's no greenery. So it really does feel like, you know, just lots of plastic in a very small confined space. So we could soften that with soft lighting, some plants, maybe a nice soft rug for the children to sit on. Maybe you could have a cultural rug. And, you know, that's another thing is there really aren't many cultural experiences for children to explore. So I think we're showing this as an example of how this environment could really be improved. However, we go to this space and how does this make us feel? It's clean, it's bright, it's inviting, there's not too much out, but there is enough equipment for multiple children to actually have a turn each. It's just clean, bright and cheerful. So hopefully this is a really good example of how you could be inspired to clear up your space. And this is just another shot of it, but I love the fact that they've actually got shelves. The children have real equipment that they can go and touch. So the bowls, the mugs and the goblets and things like that. There's beautiful baskets there. There's not too much plastic at all. However, the books are bright. There's some plastic high chairs that the dolls are sitting in and things like that. But I really love the use of mirrors where children can actually watch themselves play and look at themselves. Soft lighting, plants. These are some of the elements that are actually going to help you improve your environment. So hopefully you get some good ideas from this one. Create delight and joy. So this is what we're all here for, and hopefully we can aim to create delight and joy into your space. And I think some of the previous photos will actually encourage that if your environment is similar. Have a look at this beautiful picture. So how do you think the children of your service would feel if they walked in and found this one day when they arrived. It doesn't need to be there all of the time. Delight and joy often happen by finding something new in an unexpected place. And I think if you had a child who was sad coming into care, or a little bit anxious, or a new child starting in care, what better way for them to actually feel welcomed, to feel safe, to feel secure, and to feel like, you know, it's just a space that they just want to go and lay in until they're ready to come and play. So I think you can appreciate the use of the soft lighting is fantastic. Really, really soft. It just creates that calming atmosphere. There's cushions, materials. It really would be inexpensive to create a space like this. So hopefully you have something like this in your service. And now we're going to move outdoors. So what if an educator had created a scarecrow and you went outside and found this? Imagine what the children would say. It's just another element of making the environment a creative space for children to explore. So the children could help dress the scarecrow. You might have parents who are really, good with the garden and, have green thumbs and things like that. They might be able to help. And that's another way of getting everybody involved in the outdoor space. So just a beautiful space to want to explore. And have a look at this. In the learning environments of Reggio Emilia and in settings that use this approach, shadow and light are often used to spark joy and wonder. Can you imagine how the children in your family daycare service would react to giant, beautiful shadows? Lots of learning can occur in this space, and it's inexpensive. It doesn't take a lot of room, but it actually creates curiosity and wonder for children. And then this, what about the joy from a reflection of a CD? So again, incorporating many, many different concepts in there. We can talk about color, we can talk about STEM, we can talk about reflection and science. Very simple, just a CD and some light. So it doesn't need to cost a lot to create these spaces. I love this one as well. So if you read the booklet before the session, you would have learned that humans take joy from round shapes, bright colours and abundance. So the creator of this environment seems to have hit the jackpot here. So again, as we talked about before, repurposing old tyres, they can be painted to make them look bright and colourful. It's actually inviting children to be part of the learning environment. So they've obviously made a herb garden out of this. The children can be involved in that process of learning about growing herbs, and then maybe taking some home to share with their families or to use in cooking within your service. So another great way of incorporating the outdoor space and making it really inviting. So use small space as well. So many of us may not have huge homes for our family daycare service, and that's okay. But it's what we do with our spaces and how the spaces make children feel. And us as educators, we spend a lot of time in them. So this is how we're going to have a look at this. We're going to look at some pictures of smaller environments and see how well they're used. I love this one. So see how the educator has defined specific spaces using 3 different types of flooring and different coverings. This is a small courtyard, but covering the walls with lots of ivy and other crawling plants just makes it look lush and green. So you don't have to have the biggest outdoor space, but it's how you create that space to make children feel like they want to be out there and exploring. And as you could agree, I would probably want to be out there all day. Again, very minimal use of plastic, lots of natural resources, rugs for children to sit on. You can see that there's a baby and a toddler out there. It's safe, and it makes you just want to sit there and, be part of nature and the environment. And another beautiful space. This educator does not have a large construction space. However, but by making her blocks smaller and using lots of loose parts, she's made the space really, really work. So I love the use of a little sign there, because that's introducing a literacy-rich environment. There's lots of experiences for children to explore, and open-ended. So a stack of cups. What do you think the children will do with the cups? What will they fill them up with? You can see that there is some space, and they have already created like a little village. We've incorporated some wooden people in there, but again, a very minimal use of plastics and bright things. But it's done in a great way, because you can actually bring the colour in with the cups and reuse them. I love this space as well. A small dramatic play area, but note how the mirror is placed. So what is the point of dress ups if you can't actually look at yourself dressed up? A small space which is used really well, and the plant and the wood brings the outdoors in. So that's what we were saying before, having that greenery, having the natural look basket for the pot plant, and also take note of the very gentle touch of cultural element. So the colours of the Torres Strait Islander flag, the green, blue and white, and then also on the other side, the Aboriginal colours of the red, black and yellow. So a very subtle approach to cultural perspective. I love the use of it looks like curtain rings and just some soft ribbons. So maybe you could have some music, have the children dancing. There's a huge mirror there so they can actually watch themselves. So what a beautiful environment to create for children. And then we're going to talk about inviting the outside in. So this is our next point, and hopefully some of these photos will demonstrate that for you. Okay, so let's have a look at this space. So see how the windows will let you see the outdoor space. This actually creates a larger sense of the space if you're fortunate enough to have windows like this. And they've also got a play nook that's been created right up against the windows. The roundness of the rug echoes the round tables and the round outdoor tables, as well as the pot plants as well. And the plants bring the greenery from outside in. So, you know, using different cushions, if you're fortunate enough, you might actually use real logs in there instead of the cushion ones. But, you know, whatever you would like to use to create that space, but it really ties the outdoors and indoors together nicely. And look at this space. The colours of this space, the greenery, the natural cane boxes, all bring the outside into this space. And let's be honest, which children wouldn't want to play in here? Again, minimal use of plastics, but lots of natural resources. There's plastic chairs, but it's softened by, you know, some of the timber things on the table. You know, the use of like calico and, you know, materials like that, plants, jars, lots of things that you can actually repurpose and recycle in this space. And tables for lunch. So each set with a pot plant on top of the table, again, bringing the outdoor elements into our indoor spaces always makes people feel calmer. So imagine a beautiful lunchtime occurring here when children can actually converse with each other. They can see across the table. There's not too much clutter. It's very calming. And hopefully the educator would sit down and engage with the children and unpack beautiful conversations about healthy eating practices as well. Okay, storage is your friend. So one of the ways to declutter, as we were saying before, is to think about how we're going to store this and actually where do you store this? You know, at the end of the day, we don't want everything that you've ever had for your family daycare service stored within the play space. Many of you would probably have sheds or garages or other spaces that you could actually store some of your equipment and only bring out the equipment that the children are going to be using for that day. And how many different storage systems have you tried before finding one that works? Storage is going to be your friend as a family daycare educator. And I think this photo really demonstrates how storage can be minimal, but also functional and beautiful, not ugly and not too bright. So I think the use of the baskets again, but also the children can actually explore what's on top of there as well. So it's multi-purposed. Lots of natural tones is what I'm taking from this. Books for children to explore. There's flags, there's dolls, and also free play by being able to pull out the baskets as well. Then we look at this picture. While this is functional because everything is stored away, where is the beauty? And as we were saying before, we want to create a beautiful, soft, calming environment. While it is functional, it doesn't actually take your eye with its beauty. So would you like this in your lounge room while you were watching TV? And I'm sure many of you would say no. So where else could you repurpose these storage containers? This is something that I would probably put in like a garage space or an outdoor shed and just rotate some of the equipment, but it's how we present it to children that actually makes them want to engage in it. So again, lots of use of baskets and natural materials and soft colours and things like that. Even looking down to the carpet, I would actually put a nice, beautiful rug. You could put an Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander rug down there, or just something that, you know, softens the space. Okay, let's have a look at this one. So we can see here, this was a follow-up photo from one of the ones before, but the storage containers that are stored on the shelves actually double as a seat. So multifunctional. So have a look at things that are, you know, purposed in a way that are going to be functional for your service. A nice bright mat on the floor, a map of the world. There's lots of learning, lots of conversations can occur. We can talk about where we live, you know, all of those sorts of things. Free range for children to explore books, and, you know, some bright things on the wall. Days of the week, children can actually go up and touch them and explore, and it's right near a window, so it's nice and bright and well lit. Create environments that empower children. So I just want you to stop for a minute and just really think about your own personal space where children come to play every day. And can you confidently say that your environment empowers children? So just have a moment to have a think about that. Hopefully you've answered yes, but if not, then hopefully from tonight's session, you will take away some ideas about how you can change your service. So let's have a look at some more storage. So this little cupboard definitely does. With its open shelves, it actually invites children to come and choose what they want to play with. So looking at the use of colours, you could actually change the mat that's on there and put some cultural material. You could soften it a little bit. You could put a rug in front of it. But I do love the way that it invites children to come and play and explore. And the equipment that's there is actually, you know, in beautiful tubs, and, you know, really invites children to come and see what's there and explore before they play. Let's have a look at this picture. So what about this slack line in the backyard? Can you imagine how powerful a child feels when they get to learn to walk on this? And I do want to just pay courtesy to Clunes Preschool for this picture, but something that you could do in your own space that's inexpensive, it's safe, it's got the use of mats, but how beautiful for children to actually explore their physical environment outside in nature. Okay, now let's have a look at this one. A small backyard, but it's got a climbing wall, it's got a slippery dip. How would children feel if they were climbing this? And by the way, those blocks under the slippery dip are soft fall, so there's no need to be concerned. So again, check with your service, with your coordination unit, refer back to your policies and procedures. And obviously, when you have your home safety checks, talk to your coordinator about how this space could work for you. But I love the use again of the real objects. So in the background, we can see there's a little kitchen set up, a microwave, real objects that children would want to explore, real pots and pans. There even looks like a facility there with water so children can explore and put that in the sink. So a really beautiful space. Look at the elements here that actually empower children. So we've got step stools to reach the taps, a spot for dirty and clean hand towels, and also a child-sized toilet. So it's about creating a space where children can explore freely, but feel like they are actually achieving something. So a child could climb up onto these steps, turn on the tap, wash their hands independently, and feel like a sense of accomplishment. And also a child-sized toilet, so for those who can't reach the bigger size toilet. So it really is about creating a space where children want to explore freely. But we do need to remember, revising all of the things that we've just talked about, at the end of the day, it is your family daycare service, but it is your home as well. So it needs to work for you and your family and reflect you and your family with all of those safety aspects that we've talked about already, keeping those in mind as well. Okay, let's have a look at this space. So when the educator sent this in, she said the deck is new and she hasn't worked out yet if it could be for family daycare or for her family. So can you think of some ways that we could actually ensure that it's still a space for her family to explore, maybe at the weekends or after hours, but how could it be an inviting space for the family daycare children as well? For me personally, I would soften it with some mats. There's enough sort of natural elements by having the raw timber underneath as the flooring, but I love the use that you could actually have a look through the railings at the beautiful plants. Again, the safety aspect as well. So maybe moving the pram out of the way so children don't use that as a climbing tool, but softening it with mats and baskets of beautiful toys that children would want to experience. You could actually tie some beautiful soft material, you know, up high and create like the teepee that we saw before, or even the reading teepee for children to sort of lay down and just sort of lay there and look at nature. There are so many open-ended opportunities with this play space. Okay, so let's have a look at this one. It actually looks like there are a lot of family daycare elements that need to be put away before it becomes a family home again at the end of the day. And that's probably something that as educators, family daycare educators, struggle with, is how much of it becomes part of my home and how much of it actually can be put away so then it becomes a space for my family to use. And I think when we look at the statistics that we first did when we first joined this session, it's really interesting that, you know, quite a high percentage of you, I think it was about 82%, have decided that they would like dedicated spaces just for family daycare. But I think the educator has done a very good job of blending this in here, and, you know, most of this stuff could actually be packed away. And then we look at this space. Do you really want to see all of those posters on the wall of your home? It depends on, you know, what part of the house this is. Do you need to have every single certificate displayed like this? And this looks like a space where family daycare has taken over the home. And I'm sure many of your family members and even yourself might feel like this sometimes. So that's why it's really good to stop and really think about the space, think about the functionality, think about the storage, think about the way that we actually display things and how much of it can actually be packed away when we're not working. Okay, one of my favorite topics is culture. So does your home reflect the culture of the children that you're caring for? And what about your own culture? Are there artifacts? Are there things? Are there items that children can explore and get to know you as an educator and what's important to your family and your culture? Or the culture of First Nations people in Australia? Do you need to take a cultural wall or table, or is it better to have it sprinkled throughout the home? Hopefully you've answered yes to the second part, because it really should be embedded throughout your whole home and not just a tokenistic one little table of different objects to explore. And One Service sent us this photo, beautiful photo of how they are working to embed Aboriginal culture through their educators' environment. And how inviting does this cot look? So I love the use of the, you know, Australian animals theme, and also, most importantly, having a look at the clothing that the dolls are actually wearing. I would love to know where they got those bibs from, but looking at the Aboriginal symbols, it's a nice way of incorporating dramatic play with an element of cultural play as well. So really thinking about how you present the learning to children. This is another beautiful space. So having a look at the use of the tablecloth with the Aboriginal print, or the Aboriginal dolls in play corner, and also the pride flag in the corner of the room. So really having a look at the types of things that you actually put into a generic play space can actually make the difference in terms of, you know, embedding culture and, you know, other elements throughout your environment. Questions to consider. So two of the people who have influenced environments in education and care are American teachers Margie Carter and Deb Curtis. In one of their books, they asked educators to think about these statements in relation to their environment. And as I read each statement, I just want you to think about what the children you care for would answer to this. So just a moment for reflection. Number one, I can see who I am and what I like to do inside my family daycare educator's home. Number two, I can see places that are comfortable for my tired mum, dad, grandma, auntie, uncle, or somebody special to sit with me while I talk to an educator. Number three, the natural world can be found here, such as objects from nature, animals, or living specimens. Number four, there is something sparkly, shadowy, or wondrous and magical here in my play space every day. Number five, My educator leaves a special object out here every day so I can use it as many times and try to figure out more about its properties and how it works. I just love that. Number 6, there are materials here that I can use to make representations of what I understand or imagine. Number 7, I can feel powerful and be physically active here. So that's really important as well. Number 8, I can learn to see things from a different perspective here, literally, and through assuming roles in dramatic play. And also, number 9, there's a cozy place where I can get away from the group or just be by myself. And I think we showcased that with the beautiful TP and tent area where you can just read books or lay down and, just relax. Number 10, I can see my name written or I get to regularly write my name when I come to care. And number 11, I get to know my educator here, what they like, how they spend their time when they're away from school, and also what they like to do with their family. So I think if we use those questions as a basis, it will actually help us to think from the child's perspective and think from the family's perspective and really unpack what it feels like to step into your play space and the importance of that. Okay, so now we're going to flick to a video, and it's a conversation between Anthony Semann and also Lisa Bryant. It's a fantastic interview, and hopefully this will tie in everything that we've just talked about and give you some more inspiration of how to explore your learning space.
Hello and welcome to PD in Your Pocket. I'm very excited tonight to be interviewing Anthony Semann because it's always fun to invite a friend to be online, but it's also really important when they love the topic you're talking about.
I love talking about environments, and thank you, Lisa, for inviting me and for everyone who's listening to this, because we all have an experience of encountering beauty. And how gorgeous would it be that every child leaves your memory palace, your early childhood, your family daycare home, with memories of encountering beauty in your home. So I have so much to talk about. I know we're limited for time, but I do hope that you get something out of this.
I'm sure everyone will. Why has this always been a passion of yours? Why is beauty, like beauty is quite a strong word. Why do you use beauty and early childhood education in the same?
Well, it's controversial. Like when you talk about love for children, it's controversial. And I think sometimes the most controversial issues really can change what we do. I have gorgeous memories of encountering beauty as a child myself. I remember the Canadian maple tree in the backyard as a child and, waiting for autumn to come and to play with those maple leaves. And I'm all for deinstitutionalizing childhood. Someone said to me the other day, we are building hotels for children, and it shouldn't be that for children. They should be really beautiful places. And I think when we think about our encounter with beauty as an adult, we know how it moves us. Every time, Lisa, I encounter Sydney Harbour, I'm moved. You know what that memory takes me back to when I was 3, because I can still remember seeing Sydney Harbour when I was 3, and how wonderful that every child encounters beauty, because it's a right, it's not a privilege.
So why is it so important in family daycare?
Well, in centre-based care, they often talk about home-like environments. Well, in family daycare, you are in a home-like environment. So resist childcare, resist that look. Because, if I can be slightly cheeky, be anaphylactic to the aesthetics of childcare. When it screams a particular thing and it's expected, resist that. In family daycare, there are particular words there that are important. family, and care. Yeah, it's in the day because it's not called family night care. So let's forget about the day part. But what does an environment that speaks of family look like? Togetherness, memories, coming, just spending gorgeous amounts of time being with each other. And the concept of care, do you know, when I invite people over for dinner, rare occurrence, I do take care because I set up the table as an act of love, to say, I've thought about you. In family daycare, it's no different. When you set up your environment, it's an act of love for an infant, a toddler, or a preschooler, or if you've got children who are school-aged, to say, I've thought about you. Welcome to my home. You don't want to, excuse me, to scream home and then institution. Like, that's not to say that all places that children gather are institutions, but how wonderful to create a memory palace for children.
That's a great concept. So if you walked into a family daycare that you thought was really good, what would you expect to see, both indoor and outdoor?
I would love to see soft spaces. I would love to see small things and large things, familiar things, unfamiliar things. People talk about loose parts. I like to think about thinking materials. So things that children can engage with that make them think. So pieces of wood or, items that are unexpected. So, yarns of wool. I would love to see environments where you can gather as a group, or you could get time out on your own, because children do need time on their own to sit somewhere really comfortable. I would also, and I'll use the words of Alain Dubuton, to see a visible sign of tenderness. Tables that are clean, floors that are clean, equipment that don't have drawing on them, dolls dressed. We don't want naked dolls with matty hair and no clothes on thrown into a corner. It would also be gorgeous to see an abundance of materials. You don't need a lot of areas, but have areas that have an abundance. So if you have a block area, you can't build a city with 6 blocks. But if you had a selection of materials, things you buy from the hardware, expected, unexpected things, a selection of blocks, beautiful dolls, so there's enough for a group to play with, then that would make my heart sing. In the outdoors, I remember Lisa writing a chapter for a book about the importance of outdoors, and I rang a friend and I said, this chapter's really bad. Like, I don't know if I'd buy the book. I said, I don't think I've answered the question, which was, how do you know if you've got your outdoor environment right? And her response was, well, it's pretty basic. And I said, well, I don't know that. Maybe I shouldn't have written the chapter. She said, answer these 2 questions for me. If someone in your family wants to get married, would they want to have their wedding reception in the backyard? And if you're on a public holiday, would the backyard be somewhere you'd want to gather for a picnic with your family? If you've answered no, you've got work to do. And I thought, ooh, we have work to do. So
I don't think I'd want to get married in a lot of backyards around here.
But you know what I mean? Like gorgeous shade, like a beautiful chair to sit with a group of children. Like, you don't want dirty cushions outside. But what I'd also like to see is for children to be a part of that environment. So come every Friday morning, you undress the dolls with children, you take the bed sheets off the home corner, you put them in a basket, you walk the children to the washing machine, you pop them in there, you go back half an hour later, you collect that with the children, you hang them out to dry, because of course you've replaced the clothes on the dolls. They haven't been sitting there naked. So children are a part of the aesthetics of care, because I truly believe every environment needs an aesthetic soldier, someone who fights for beauty.
Sounds good to me. Anthony, one of the things that I've noticed with family daycare a lot in the places that I visit is that a lot of them look like mini childcare centres. but they're held in homes, and these are people's homes. And I always wonder, how are you managing to live in this space that looks like a centre? And why haven't you capitalized on what you have, which is the beauty of the home? Do you think I'm right? Or
I think you're right. I absolutely think you're right. I can see the complexities given that particular spaces are probably sanctioned away from children, and there are other spaces where they can gather. But, you know, transportable materials like a bucket of texters on a table can be easily put away and not set up like it's a makeshift staged home for children. Like, you don't want it to be a staged childcare centre packed away. You know, a selection of beautiful dolls that can be put away on the weekend, not set up like a childcare centre per se. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that aesthetic, but you're right. What does it mean to be cared and educated for in someone's home? If you think about relationship-based practice, then let the relationships take over, not setting up like it's somewhere else, because the challenge we have, it becomes an everywhere but anywhere but a nowhere kind of place. So it looks like it could be anywhere. One of the best things you can do is to keep it looking like your home. So it speaks of a home environment, not some weird early childhood center that's just dropped into your lounge room 5 days a week. So think about what you believe around children and their learning.
okay, so let's say I take you into your nightmare family daycare environment. Obviously, it'd have naked dolls with a texture all over them, etc. But what else would I see?
I'd see posters on the wall that children don't know how to read because children can't read. So I never get what the poster story is. Visual displays of bowel movements. I think that's something private. I don't think it needs to be public. You can't talk about ethics and put bowel movements on display unless we're willing to track our family's bowel movements. Why would you do it to a child? That can be in a little book. I wouldn't like to see an abundance of plastic makeshift home corners that look like they've had anything but love and care. You know, furniture that isn't welcoming for adults. Like, you don't need a mini sofa for children. Children can sit on your sofa. I always find these little sofas on the ground slightly strange, because how are we supposed to sit with a child on that sofa? How gorgeous for a child to climb up to an adult sofa, beautiful cushions, nestled into your arm to read, because if it doesn't speak of the adults, then it's pointless. I would hate to see pencils that are blunt, crayons that don't work, dirty easels. All that doesn't say welcome. It says no one owns this equipment and no one cares.
Yeah.
And that beautiful saying by Mies van der Rohe, less is more. Don't go overboard. You don't need a lot.
So clutter isn't your friend.
Clutter is not my friend, and nostalgia is not your friend. Don't hold on to it because it's been there for a long time.
So what about plastic stuff? Talk to me about why materials matter.
Well, this might be the controversial piece, Lisa. Look, we want to be sustainable, yeah?
Yep.
So it's a double-edged sword here. If you throw out your plastic, you're adding more landfill. That's the reality. If you want to get more wooden products, you're cutting a tree down. And I think we've misinterpreted that nature is 5 shades of brown. I've been to a florist. It's colorful. It's the balance there. I think as materials age, as equipment gets old, make a very informed decision about what you buy. You might want to resist those standard catalogs. You might want to go to your local op shop and find a beautiful table that you can cut the legs down and use that, because that is being sustainable, because you're upcycling something that exists, not buying something new necessarily that was just made for that purpose. Materials speak to us. You know, they draw our attention. I often think when I walk into a store, fabric talks to me. This is going to sound very strange. I have to touch it. I have to smell it. It's saying to me, come here. Some materials and some environments say, stay away. Absolutely. So the environment can be pleasing or dismissive. I'd be very cautious to throw out all the plastic, but as time goes by, as things break, replace it with more sustainable, maybe secondhand recycled items, because, Facebook Marketplace, you can buy some really cheap things. You probably got stuff in your shed that you think are adult-like that children shouldn't use. They can be used.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that you spoke about, which is one of my bugbears, is having all the stuff on the walls. I can't stand it because it's often a misplaced idea of literacy and, etc. But putting the certificates that the educator has on the walls, that's not for children, it's for parents, and probably even parents aren't there. But does the regs demand that you have some stuff on your walls?
Look, there may be one or two regulatory requirements, but when it comes to children's artwork, all those posters, absolutely not. Putting every communicable disease on the front door, absolutely not. There was a beautiful study, Lisa, the only one I found so far, that came out of QUT about displaying children's artwork. And they interviewed young children, and it was really interesting. They found that often children don't like their work on display. And when we ask them and they say no, adults tend to say, "Are you sure?" And children, because they want to please you, then just go, "Whatever, hang them." They also found that when they're on display, children compare each other's work. They see it as competition. My takeaway from that piece of research is, if you are going to display something, do it nicely. Maybe have 3 or 4 secondhand frames that every once in a while you might put a piece of work up, but it doesn't have to be the 5 pieces created by every child. Maybe a piece up, and it could stay there for a year or 2. I don't change my paintings every week, so giving children choice and displaying it nicely. The Museum of Contemporary Art doesn't use blue tack, let's put it this way, to hang things up.
I can see from the environment I see behind you that your environment matters to you a lot as a person. What if I was to challenge you and say there's a class-based thing about this? What if I was to say to you that a lot of educators are forced to work out of essentially unlovable places? They may be their homes, but like all of us, if they'd won the lottery, their home would be a lot more beautiful.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that, or what do you say?
I think it's a really important socially just question. Trying to define what is beautiful is very difficult, and I would never even go there. Let me tell you what I would suggest to the people watching this. Instead of defining what is beautiful, maybe start to say what is not okay. Not what's okay, what's not okay. Do we want the toilet that children go to look like a dirty public toilet? No. Do we think that when you're eating food, there should be food on the ground, on the floor around you? No. If we can address the below the line, then that's the best thing, because aesthetics, I can appreciate there is a privilege with particular resources that some may afford, some may not, or particular built environments that we can't change. But a lot of the things that we say detract from beauty, we can control. Like a dead plant, we can pull out. I was once working with a family day carer who was talking about some of the challenges in her community by having gardens. They just didn't last. And after lots of conversation, Lise, we got a secondhand wheelbarrow and we planted strawberries in it. And at nighttime, she could pull it into her garage. In the daytime, she pulled it outside. And it's just one secondhand wheelbarrow with strawberries and then sunflower were just gorgeous. Like it showed, and I think the wheelbarrow cost us about $29, truly. I think sometimes beauty doesn't have to cost a lot, but the things that are not so beautiful make our eyes bleed. So address that and stop worrying about what you do need and worry about what's not okay.
That sounds wonderful to me. One of the things that always annoys me is when I go to an outdoor area and there might be great, climbing equipment and great places to run around, but there's nowhere to sit down.
Yeah.
And I'm, as an adult, and even when I was a child, I'm someone who likes to sit down and get the sun on my face and play with the leaves around me. And I just look at some places and think, well, the grass is wet. There's that horrible bench over there, but it's hard. Can't we just have somewhere that's comfortable to sit in? And I think you've got to kind of think of those things. What's the most...
maybe we should be people-centered, not child-centered. Yeah. Because when it's people-centered, then there is somewhere for us to sit with children. The reality is children can sit on adult furniture. Adults can't sit on children's furniture.
Precisely.
Yeah.
What's the most beautiful education and care service that you've been into? What did it look like?
It's actually what it felt like that made the difference. I walked in and you could see that there was this absolute love for their professional identity. You could see that they were very thoughtful. Was it the most aesthetically beautiful? No, because I've been into these kinds of masterpieces, but they lack soul. They lack absolute soul. And this was an old building. I think it was probably the 1950s. It was a rambling of old furniture, but the trees were growing. There was some shade and some sun. There were places where I could sit, and there was unexpected items. The floors weren't matching. Like there were some floorboards in one section, some lino in another section, some cobbled tiles in another, but that didn't bother me. Actually, that said, we have been loved. This space has been loved. But it was the feeling. And again, it spoke about human connection, not about a manufactured environment for children.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. What's, when you think about the most beautiful place in the world to you, like not just in education and care, but in the world, what's the most beautiful place that you've ever been?
Well, one of my most favourite places actually is the rooftop of the Museum of Contemporary Art.
Me too. I love that place, except when the ships are in there. When the ships are in there, then it's no good.
Where else do you get a $4 cup of tea with the best view on the planet? And Lisa, there's a beautiful video on the MCA's website called Young Children and the Arts. And it's a research project of taking babies to the MCA. And I love that it's a welcoming place, but I just love sitting up there on a cold day, on a sunny day, and just looking at the harbour, because for me, it's a moving painting. And I think it's free to go there. Yeah. You can go up there. You don't have to pay anything, and you get the best view, because I don't always feel comfortable in fancy places, believe it or not. I want to feel like I'm just comfortable being me. And the MCA on the rooftop is just gorgeous. And you can take children to the Museum of Contemporary Art. And can I tell everyone who's watching, if you ring them, you can pre-book a visit with your children. It costs nothing. And the curators have all been trained in how to work with children, and they'll curate a whole experience for your children at the MCA.
Sounds good. Okay, well, thank you very much for talking to us tonight. I know that some people will still kind of walk away with a sense of, yeah, but look at my space. What do I do? Have you just got any hint for them?
Yeah, Windex, clean, declutter, get rid of stuff. We don't need too much. Don't feel like more is best. Ask yourself this: if I had my grandchild come in here, what would be a beautiful space for my grandchild? Let go of family daycare. And if you can just think about inviting the most loved child in the world into your space, how would you set it up? Do that for your children who come every day, because I just think it makes their heart sing. And even simple things like, you may not have the nicest table, but some potted plants, a potted, coloured pot on your table will just make the ordinary look quite extraordinary.
That's a wonderful place to finish. Thank you very much, Anthony.
Thanks, Lisa. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate you listening.
Okay, I'm sure you are buzzing from that beautiful interview between the lovely Lisa Bryant and the lovely Anthony Semann. I've taken lots of notes. I've got notes everywhere, and there is so much to unpack, and really, really inspiring. For me, the first thing that I actually took from that was about creating a memory palace for children. Just amazing. And I'm sure it resonates with many of you. I'm just reading all of my notes here. The second one was becoming an aesthetic soldier. That is such a powerful statement, and I really love the use of that. And hopefully, going back into your services, we can all become aesthetic soldiers and really look at what aesthetics or the look of how our environments are and how they feel for children. So I really, really enjoyed that. Also, Anthony talked about providing familiar and unfamiliar objects and the importance of actually having both. And I think that's really important because that actually showcases how it encourages children to think about their world. What I also took from that fantastic, inspiring presentation is what it feels like. What does the environment make you feel like? When you close the door for the end of the day, the children go home, what have they felt? What have you felt in that learning space? How did it make you feel? But most importantly, how did it make a child feel? Do they go home and share those experiences with their family and talk about the wonderful things that have evoked their curiosity and wonder? I also enjoyed hearing Anthony talk about upcycling lots of different materials, things like old tables, other things like tires and things like that. And we've seen those in many of the photos tonight. And that care taken of your environment is actually showing children an act of love. And I really think that that's so powerful. If we've just got boxes of, mismatched materials out, what is that showing children? But if we've carefully thought out the environment, if we've taken their voice into consideration, if we've really put thought and love into it, then we are showing children that we care about them. And that's so powerful. And that ties in being the aesthetic soldier. And also materials speak to us. And I think looking at some of the beautiful environments that many of you have shared with us tonight is really powerful because materials do speak to us. And it actually is the difference between children wanting to explore the space and children not wanting to explore the space. And obviously, powerfully, how the learning is going to occur for children. So, hopefully you're just as inspired from hearing that fantastic presentation. And now we're actually going to go to some questions. Hopefully I can get through many of them. And thank you for sending them in. So firstly, I'm just checking these. All of the environments shown can be used for babies and toddlers in care. Is this correct? So yes, there should be no reason why many of these spaces cannot be shared by mixed age groups, which is family daycare. Obviously, the safety aspects need to be taken into consideration. So making sure that it's safe, but supervision is key. Sitting with the children, engaging with the children, knowing when to jump in and liaise with the children is also a skill to learn as well. But I think we can see that most of the environments that we've shown tonight can be used for a mixed age range. But again, talk to your coordination unit and also, refer back to your policies, procedures and your philosophy. Do we have any ideas for people who are renting? I think we've probably shown that besides the outdoor spaces, most of the indoor spaces are suitable for people who are renting because they're things that can be packed away easily. So the use of, shelving, baskets, different storage things wouldn't impact on the actual environment. I think when you move to the outdoor space, that might be a little bit different, but get creative. Have a think about how we can take the indoors out and the outdoors in. And again, ask questions, ask other people to have a look at your environment, survey your family, survey the children and say, what improvements can I make? There's so many things on the internet. You can Google environments, you can go on Pinterest. There's lots of educator pages where educators share lots of resources. So hopefully that answers your question. And I absolutely love this question, but how can we continue to advocate for risky play whilst trying to navigate how regulated our profession is? A very good question, and one that I'm really passionate about. So I think there has to be an element of risky play in all play spaces, be it indoors or outdoors. And hopefully, you will know that my answer is probably going to be referring back to your policies and procedures and your service guidelines. I think because as a service, talk about why risky play is important. Do you have opportunities where educators come together within your service and unpack what risky play looks like? What are the expectations from the coordination unit of your service? What are your expectations, and how can you marry the two together while keeping it safe for children? But I think if you have a personal philosophy that promotes a play-based learning environment and also an element of risky play, then you are being true to what you believe in, and hopefully you can merge the two together. And I think it can be easily done. Another question that we've got there is, okay, can you please also address the shortcomings of using the garage exclusively for the family daycare children? So I guess for me, lots of educators are using garage spaces, but I think it's how we actually bring the outdoors in and soften that so it doesn't look like it is just a garage. So lots of soft lighting, greenery, if you're fortunate enough to have windows in there, but, obviously engaging children in outdoor play as well, so that they have a balance of indoor and outdoor, but really looking at how you furnish your environments and play spaces is actually going to help you make it feel like it's not a garage space. And that probably is a skill. And if you can do that well and make it not feel like a garage space, then I think, you've achieved your goal there. And I think that might be all of the questions. Oh, no, one more question. When babies put wooden toys in their mouths, how do you clean them? So again, refer back to your policies and procedures, but, just having like soapy warm water that you can wipe down, using some wipes, things like that. You would be doing this with your COVID safe practice, I'm sure, at the moment anyway, but don't be scared to use the natural resources just because of that. Yes, they may not be able to be soaked in water, but there are ways that you can actually wipe it down and children can explore. So hopefully that answers all of your questions. I'm just going to flick to some websites. Hopefully you find these useful, but participate in the PD in Your Pocket Facebook group. I'm actually on there. I find it fantastic when educators share lots of different pictures, ideas. It probably is the best way to actually get some more ideas, but jump onto www.nswfdc.org.au and find some more information there as well. And I would just like to say thank you so much for joining. My name was Chris Hall, and I look forward to seeing you in the next presentation. Thank you.